First thing we're going to talk about on Unit 1 for our final review is infinite solutions. Infinite solutions is when any number makes the equation true. So it doesn't matter what number you choose, any number you pick will work in the equation. So if we end up with something like 2 is equal to 2, that will be infinite solutions. It's true. We also know that equations that look like this, actually let's change that and make our y-intercepts different numbers. How about that? 2x plus 4 equals 2x plus 4. They have the same slope and the same y-intercept. We know from systems that those will be overlapping lines, and so they are all real numbers. Any number you put in for x will make that equation true. Next up is no solutions. No solutions is when no number makes the equation true. So if we end up with something that is false, like 3 is equal to 4, well, that's just false. And so we cross that out, and we have to say no solutions. We also know that lines that never intersect will actually make no solutions because they never cross. That's also from systems, but things like this, 2x plus 3 is equal to 2x plus 6. Those lines have the same slope and different y-intercepts, and so without even solving this equation out, you should know that this is no solutions because the two linear equations will never touch. Next, let's solve for x. Reminder that we simplify, isolate, solve. Simplify is when we distribute or combine like terms. Isolate is when we add or subtract to get our variables on one side, and then solve is when we actually solve the two-step equation. So let's first distribute on the right-hand side, well, balancing line, and then distribute. So 4x, make sure you multiply what's on the outside to every term on the inside. 2 times positive 3 is positive 6. Watch your negatives, guys. Now I'm going to isolate. I'm going to add or subtract. Doesn't matter which one you move. I'm going to move the one from the right to the left. So I'm going to take it away. I have to subtract because it's positive. 4x minus 4x is 0. And so those both cancel out. And I'm left with negative 1 is equal to 6, which is false. So I put a cross through it, I exit out, and I say no solutions. On this one, we're solving for y. So again, draw your balancing line. I know that what happened in this equation was that minus 10x was subtracted, and 2 was multiplied. So if I'm going backwards, then I should add the 2x because we undo addition or subtraction first, and then divide the 2. So let's go ahead and add 10x, excuse me. This is a literal equation of types. Negative 10x plus 10x is 0. So 2y is equal to 16 plus 10x, and now we divide by 2 because that's multiplication. And we are doing the inverse. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 10 divided by 2 is positive 5. So y is equal to 8 plus 5x. Next is a word problem. It says a new plasma screen television costs $5,250. A family makes a down payment of $552 and pays off the balance in 24 equal monthly payments. Write and solve an equation to find the monthly payment. So you could set up your equation in a couple of different ways. The first option. So first off, here's our important stuff. I know that the total of the TV is $5,250. I know that in order to get up to that price that I paid a down payment of $552. So that happened once. And then 24 equally monthly payments. So plus 24 times my monthly payment. So that's one equation you could write. The other equation you could write, you could start with your cost of the television, and subtract every monthly payment until you get down to your down payment. So you could do that. You could also subtract 552 from that. I personally like the first equation better, so that's what I'm going to use. Now we're going to solve this equation to find the monthly payment. So I will draw my balancing line, subtract 552. That would give me 4,698. I still have my equal sign. And that's gone, so I'm left with 24x is equal to that, so I divide by 24. So my monthly payment is $195.75, and that's dollars. So we should write the sentence because it's a word problem. Then should say the monthly payment is $195.75. Now we're going to graph inequality. First thing we should do is solve it. This is a compound inequality. So we're actually going to draw two balancing lines. And what we do to one side, we must do to all three sides. So let's start by simplifying. And now we're going to add the two. So that's -8 is less than or equal to 2x less than 16, and we divide by 2. Remember, we only flip the sign if we're dividing or multiplying by a negative. And so this would become -4 is less than or equal to x is less than 8. Let's graph that. I'm going to start at -8, -6, -4, -2, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We're going to have a closed circle if it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. We'll have an open circle if it's less than or greater than. So we are going to have a closed circle, at -4, an open circle at +8, and it's saying that it's everything in between that. On to solving the proportion. When we solve proportions, we cross multiply. Remember, the thing that has the variable should go inside the parentheses. So I like to usually circle. So it's going to be 4 times the quantity. The thing with the variable should go in the parentheses, especially if it has two terms. And then 2 times the quantity, 4x minus 6. Simplify, isolate, solve. We'll draw a balancing line. That's 8x minus 12 is equal to 8x minus 12. And I know without even solving from here that it's going to be infinite solutions because I see that the slope and the y-intercept are the same. If these were linear equations, I had to graph. But I could keep solving and isolate. I'm going to subtract because it's positive, and I'm taking it away. -12 equals -12. That's the exact same. This is a true statement. And so I say infinite solutions, or all real numbers. When we solve an absolute value, we need to isolate the absolute value bars before we solve actually what's inside of the absolute value. So first thing we have to do is add or subtract when we solve an equation. So we're going to add 7 first. That cancels out. We're left with 4 times the absolute value of b minus 1 is equal to 24. Now this is multiplication right here, and so I have to divide by 4. You cannot distribute the 4 because absolute values are not the same thing as parentheses. So we're left with b, the absolute value of b minus 1 is equal to 6. This is where we split it up into two things. We'll split it up into b minus 1 equals 6. That's a 6. and b minus 1 equals negative 6. And we solve both. It's positive or negative because remember absolute value is the distance from 0. And so I'm saying what two numbers go inside those bars to get me a distance from 0 of 6. It could be positive or negative 6. Solve those. So b equals 7 or b equals negative 5. Last, when a student adds 20 to a number, the result is 1/2 of the number. What is the number? So let's say our number is x. We're adding 20 to it. Is an equal word. So is equal to 1/2 of a number. We need to solve this equation. So this one's a little bit trickier because we have variables on both sides, but we don't have much else. We do have a 20. So I'm going to isolate first. I'm actually going to take away from the left side because if I take away from the right, I have nothing left. So I'm going to subtract x, and that's 1x. If you don't see a number out in front, the coefficient is 1. So I'm subtracting 1x, we'll cancel that out. So I'm left with 20 is equal to negative 1/2 x because 1/2 minus 1, so I'm subtracting 2 halves, 2 over 2. And then to get rid of the fraction, I multiply by the reciprocal. In this case, it still has to be negative. Reciprocal just means to flip the fraction. So these cancel out, and I multiply straight across. Negative 40 over 1, which is just negative 40, is equal to x. So negative 40 is the number.